Andrés, what's happening, man?
How's it going, bro? It's good to be here with you.
Thanks. Welcome to the Playbook Podcast. Excited to learn more about your story. So yeah, man, your backstory is wild. From Adderall dependence to physiological performance coach. Can you kind of get into, you know, what was the turning point that led you on this new path?
Yeah, man. Honored to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'd say, for me, I started my health journey very selfishly. I mean, I guess any health journey technically is selfish, but I was just absolutely obsessed with fixing myself and doing, I mean, just absolutely whatever it takes, going through whatever it could be that could possibly help me to get to the other side of my health, well-being, and cognitive performance. And I didn't realize that I even had the opportunity to do this until I happened to stumble upon the concept of neuroplasticity when I was about 18 years old. And when I realized that there's some science at the time, that there was some science behind changing your brain and upgrading your brain, I mean, I just became absolutely obsessed. And I've been a gamer my whole life. I love video games. And for me, being able to kind of gamify this experience with science and with data, I mean, it just made so much sense. And so, I ended up doing a neuroscience program while I was in high school at the University of Miami, where I later studied for college credit. And, my personal curiosity plus the changes that I was seeing on a daily and weekly basis by applying what I was learning, if you look at all the mechanisms that drive neuroplasticity, I mean, obviously there's exercise, there's fasting, there's certain nutrients, there's heat and cold exposure, even socializing, sleep, recovery. There's so many of these mechanisms that I was not tapping into because I was on Adderall. And as soon as I realized that Adderall was taking me away from what I really needed to feel good about myself authentically, I mean, that was like the flip of a switch. And so that
Yeah.
summer during the program, I committed to learning as much as I possibly could and to incorporate as much of that substance into my lifestyle. And within 3 months, man, I saw some radical upgrades. I had gained 20 to 25 pounds of muscle in 3 months. Like, I was skeletal on Adderall. I was totally, like, I was almost anorexic. I was very anxious. I had a stutter because my brain was so overactive. I had no friends because I was afraid to socialize, and I was so locked
Yeah.
into my work. I wasn't sleeping. So all of a sudden, man, I gained 25 pounds of muscle. I just soaked it all up, and I felt confident for the first time. And that's when I truly became obsessed. And I decided, all right, I'm going to go to school to study all the things that are helping me. I went to school for exercise physiology, minored in psychology, pursued a master's in physiology and nutrition. Fortunately, couldn't complete it due to COVID shutting off our classes. But around that time frame, I had started a company with a Harvard doctor that I was shadowing in lifestyle medicine. And together with the experience and my knowledge and my passion, um, I kind of kept things going. And then I started a big podcast where really it was just an excuse to connect with um, interesting people around the world that were experts in their fields, health, fitness, high performance, longevity, functional medicine, you name it. And, it was my attempt to kind of keep that curiosity and that knowledge going. And that grew very quickly. Again, I just think it was my personal passion and my need to get my hands on the substance.
Sure.
And now for fun, I'm doing a master's in biomedical neuroscience to return to the inception of this and to really learn more about the brain and how it works, especially in the age of AI, where we think that the most powerful that we think the most powerful supercomputer is on our fingertips, but really it's between our shoulder blades, and that's our brain. And I want to learn more about it. I want to learn how to leverage it and how to really hone in on human intelligence and on authenticity and on our natural genius. And yeah, over the years, I've had the chance to build an incredible company, Know Your Physio. We help people do basically, in a nutshell, what I did. Discover their genius through science, using data, using evidence to perform higher, live better, live longer. And my clients include everything from very young, ambitious entrepreneurs and high achieving students, all the way up to world champion athletes. We've had athletes that are World Series poker champions, Le Mans racing champions. We've had WTA tennis and US Open champs. And then I've had some of the biggest CEOs on the planet. We've got all kinds of folks. You can see them on my website. They're incredible. But anyway, I think it has a lot to, my story has a lot to do with obsession and being selfish in order to truly be selfless. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's me, man.
Dude, incredible story. So yeah, you mentioned your podcast and you talk a lot about physiological intuition.
Yeah.
What is that?
So that was my kind of fancy way of describing interoception, which is a deep bodily awareness. Like to me, physiological intuition is exactly that. It's being intuitive with your physiology. So to keep things simple, we all have signals that our body gives us throughout the day that are opportunities to hone in and change the way that we respond, change the way that we behave, change the way that we make decisions. And I believe that if we are, the more in touch that we get with these signals, the better and more prepared that we can be for whatever it is that life throws at us. I think a lot of people naturally in this modern world rely on external stimulus. They rely on drugs, alcohol, on stimulants like caffeine, nicotine, Adderall, to kind of feel the way they want to feel and perform the way they want to perform. And I think also on the flip side, a lot of people don't understand that when they go and reach for processed foods, that their body really is craving some specific nutrients that they can get in nature. It's the way that we're designed from an evolutionary perspective. And, a lot of these processed foods, what they do is they exploit certain reward mechanisms in our brain to give us the impression that we're getting what we really need. So anyway, physiological intuition to me means understanding our body signals and making the right decisions that are aligned with evolutionarily preserved mechanisms. Understanding what our body needs and giving it what it needs, not what it wants. And
Dude, it's so important, right? It's so important. A critical part of just, human life. Are there certain, like, when you work with these high achievers and high performers, are there any metrics that you find like that are super underrated that you're like, hey, people aren't paying attention to these metrics right now?
for sure, I think there's a few, um, and I believe, as a preface to what I'm about to say, I believe that data is excellent. The right data is excellent because it helps you build the backbone of this intuitive process and experience. So, for example, how many people do you know that have a Whoop or an Apple Watch or an Aura Ring, right? And you get data on this thing every single day. Nowadays, there's more, I'd say, insight that you can dig into to learn what's really happening underneath the surface. But I think even yet, the majority of people that own these devices don't actually understand what's happening or how to make decisions with it. And even if they do, they don't do it very consistently to see that compounding, effect whereby it actually has a meaningful change. It elicits meaningful change on their quality of life, their performance, and their longevity.
Sure.
So, um, anyway, I think there's a few metrics that are key that everybody needs to know and truly get a grip on. And those would be, my top three would be VO2 max, HRV, and the third one I would say is, because I bounce around between a few, but I would say it's probably sleep efficiency.
Oh,
So,
okay. Nice.
obviously, all of us want to see a higher and higher sleep score on our Whoop every single night. Like, that's always fun and sexy. However, look, we're all real human beings. We're not Brian Johnsons, right? We can't just, by any means necessary, uh, get 100% sleep scores every single night. I
Sure.
understand sometimes you have to sacrifice sleep, and sometimes the sacrifices that we make for sleep actually have a net positive effect. For example, it's hanging out with your family, with your friends, with your significant other. Sometimes it means working on a meaningful project or a passion of yours. Sometimes it means waking up early to join a run club, even if you want to sleep pretty early in the day. You might have a 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. run club. You know, so it's not like it's not always realistic to get the highest sleep score. However, what is realistic and what I think everybody should learn to do is to maximize the efficiency of their sleep, to maximize the quality of every hour that they get, and to make sure that they know how to leverage their melatonin accumulation, that they know how to help their body increase its melatonin production, because that's what's going to help us decrease sleep latencies and help you fall asleep more quickly. Increase deep sleep percentage. That's the kind of sleep that you need to truly regulate your nervous system, to replenish hormones and neurotransmitters, to gain muscle. And there's so much science to this. And if we look at the way that we're designed over the course of billions of years of evolution, I say billions because a lot of people, when they think about human evolution, they kind of cut it off to humans. It's like, No, like evolution before Homo sapiens was still relevant to us, even though we weren't necessarily Homo sapien, right? And if you look at the past couple hundred years of our evolution, really, I don't even want to say evolution because so little has happened since then. If you look at the past 100 years, so much about our modern environment around us has changed, even though the internal environment is pretty much identical. So if you look at this like gap, right? If you look at the gap between the world that evolves around us, the modern world that evolves exponentially, versus the world that evolves within us, that evolves linearly from one generation to the next, I mean, it creates this huge gap. And in my opinion, that gap is responsible for most of the problems that we face as a society and as a species nowadays. So many chronic diseases are born within this gap. And if we understand that there's this gap and we understand why it's there, now all of a sudden we have that agency. We have the ability to make better decisions. And we get to understand the power that is preserved in our DNA. If we understand our physiology, we get to know your physiology. It's my shirt, it's my company. Then all of a sudden you can close that gap. And it doesn't mean living like a caveman. It means, for example, understanding the importance, the relevance of wearing amber colored blue blocking glasses in the evening once the sun has gone down. And, it's likely that you're going to go on your phone, you're going to watch TV, you're going to go on your laptop, right? And you have this disproportionate amount of blue wavelength from these LEDs that is keeping you from accumulating melatonin. It's giving your body the impression that it's still daytime. Like, that is such a pivotal thing. Like, I hate using the word thing, but that's such a pivotal response and mechanism that every single person on this planet needs to know about. And it's actually well established in the literature. There's an incredible review, systematic review, so a study of studies, the highest tier of scientific evidence, published in 2019. It reviews, I believe it's 15 or 16 randomized controlled trials with over 500 participants that shows that amber colored blue blocking glasses improve sleep quality and sleep outcomes. And why is that? It's not magic. It's not like we evolved with blue blocking glasses. No, we just didn't evolve with blue light, being blasted into our retina after the sun has gone down. When the sun is at this low angle and the sunlight has to cross through relatively more atmosphere to get to the visible sky, we see this red color in the sky, and that's because we're blocking out some of that blue wavelength and some of that UV wavelength. So now that red color in the sky, that actually signals to our body that the sun is going down and your body starts accumulating melatonin. And think about this. What's the one thing that's been around every day and is the reason that we have days since the beginning of time? It's the sun. Sun goes up, sun goes down. That is a response every single human being needs to be consistent with. And for those who can wake up, for those who wake up before the sun, or those who have night shift, we've got these incredible sun lamps that mimic the influence of the sunrise, for example, that give you the necessary amount
Perception or whatever of like it
right.
coming up.
Yeah, right. So circadian biology is the foundation for everything else. And I know that it might seem like I'm going off, on the deep end with the specific example, but I just want to prove the point in that there are so many mechanisms that are evolutionarily preserved that we ignore, and it creates just so many issues down the line. And we think, our egos get in the way. We think, but we're just, we're modern humans. Like, whatever. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't feel the difference. I don't see it. I don't believe it. It's like, are you kidding me? You tap into this,
For
you
sure,
can
man.
get better sleep, you can have more energy, you're going to have better quality of life and longevity. It's just one example.
I love it. What are you familiar with the brand Flykit and
Of
what they're doing?
course, I'm a huge fan of
Dude,
Fly I'm actually having
Andrew and
Andrew
the
on the
team at
podcast
yeah.
soon.
Okay, hell yeah. I just listened to one of his episodes with him and John Beer from Jack Taylor, but
Nice.
what they're doing is just, revolutionizing how business people can travel, how athletes travel,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, Flykit just absolutely changing the game.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Fly is a kit that includes supplements, blue blocking glasses. I believe there's some powdered coffee in there, instant coffee, and a few other goodies in there that paired with an AI app that considers your flight itinerary information, and it basically guides you on what you need to do, with supplements to take, and when to block blue light, also when to eat, maybe even when to exercise, so that you can effectively delete jet lag. So it has a lot to do with supporting circadian biology. It has a lot to do with limiting the inflammatory response that takes place as the cabin pressurizes and depressurizes. And I mean, look, some of the most important people in the world, and even regular people. I mean, we fly around, and that's that allows us to get somewhere on the complete opposite side of the planet in within a day, right? That's not something that human beings are designed to do physiologically. And so it's very taxing on our health. You're forced to acclimate to a completely new environment within hours, and that's really stressful. I like to use the example for those who have ever had a fish tank or kept fish. I used to do a lot of aquascaping, and so I'm very familiar with this. Um, when you buy a fish at the fish store and you go and put it in your new tank, you can't just dump the fish in. If you do, the odds of it dying within the first few seconds or minutes is extremely likely, or at least have some kind of disease. And it's extremely stressful either way. So when you get a fish and you want it to survive, you have to like slowly acclimate it. How do you do that? Well, you take that fish bag from the aquarium store and you slowly introduce water from your tank over the course of several hours to improve the odds of not just survival, but overall success. And so the fish can integrate itself into this new environment. When you fly, you're going from the aquarium store to someone's tank like that, and
Right.
it's like a huge shock. No matter how beautiful the place is or how nice of a hotel you're staying in, it's still stressful. So anyway, Andrew is an incredible physiologist. He's worked with some of the most incredible high performance teams in the world, including the Navy SEALs, and he understands these mechanisms, and he understands what's happening, and he's there to, like me, apply physiology to help you live better, perform higher, and support your longevity. So he's an incredible scientist, and I look forward to having him on the show. But yeah, the fly kit is exactly, it's perfectly consistent with the example that I was giving. And I think that if more people tune into these mechanisms that are, again, evolutionarily preserved within us, they realize how this mismatch between the world within us and the world beyond us really wreaks havoc until we understand it for what it is and take action, take our agency back.
For sure, man. Got to prioritize that circadian rhythm and inflammation. But cool, man. Last question before we get to our flow stack. Who are like some influences or people that have influenced you the most over your course of your journey?
100% number one is my parents. My parents are extremely
Love that.
talented, physicians. My dad's an eye surgeon, my mom's a dentist. And, they were trained in Venezuela, which is different from the training here, even though they had to do the residencies here. So they were trained both in Venezuela and here. But from a character perspective, I believe that the way that they were trained and raised in Latin America is huge for me, and it's very inspiring to me because there's a different approach there between healthcare providers and patients. There's something called confianza, which is just basically it just means more of this like real genuine confidence and a real relationship between uh, the healthcare provider and the patient, where they can really look you in the eyes, understand why you're there, what you're looking for, and they're really truly there to help. In the US, a lot of how doctors treat people is dictated by what insurance covers, and people end up inevitably like they end up like numbers and dollar signs. And this isn't to bash the doctors, it's just to bash a system that reinforces a certain standard of care. And over in Latin America, it's simply different. And so from a young age, I had the chance to see my parents. They had the chance to express to me and my brother from a very young age over our dinner table, how rewarding it was to help somebody smile that day, or how rewarding it was to help a blind person see for the first time in decades, and really how the nature of the relationship evolved and how incredible that was. And so that inspired, my journey to pursue science to help others. My personal health journey and my struggles are the reason why I ended up switching from, standard medicine, and the more like reactive standard of care for more proactive disease prevention and lifestyle medicine. But every single day I honor what my parents have taught me, and I apply it, and I build relationships with everybody that I help. And I think it's the reason why I'm so good at what I do. I think number one, I'm a great listener, and I really like to connect with people on a deep level before I tell them or make any recommendations on how they should change their lifestyles. So they're number one. Then obviously I've got my extended family. I mean, there's so many inspiring people in my family. Family aside, some people that inspire me are my mentors, Dr. Wesley Smith, who's the head of nutrition and physiology at the University of Miami. He's the one that really showed me the difference that applied physiology can make in someone's life. And he's not just a genius within this field, but he's also someone that truly practices what he preaches. He's one of the healthiest individuals I've ever met in my life. My former business partner, Dr. Moisés Roysenthal, who's a Harvard doctor, interventional radiologist, and vascular specialist and obesity medicine doctor. I mean, just an absolute animal and an incredible professional. And then, we've got some folks that you probably know. We've got Huberman, who inspired me to get my neuroscience master's. Um, and yeah, there's a few other people, but those are the heavy hitters for sure.
Awesome, man. It's an amazing lineup. Well, okay, now we're getting into my favorite part of the podcast, the flow stack. So, what are Andres's current practices and products that help him level up his game?
Number one practice, man, I'd say as of the past few months for my flow and leveling up my game, sprinting. I love sprinting. I think it's just an absolutely incredible way to exercise. It is very evolutionarily consistent with our survival. And it's a great way to increase your VO2 max, which is the number one most highly correlated metric with longevity. So huge fan of sprinting. I'm a huge fan of exercising in community. I've really been going out of my way to exercise among other people, and it pushes you unlike anything else. It also helps hold you accountable. And when you exercise around other people, this is by the way, something that you can dig into via Dr. Kelly McGonigal's work. She's a Stanford psychologist and an incredible TEDx speaker. She's famous for her presentation called Making Stress Your Friend. Highly recommend tuning into it. Anyway, she wrote a book called The Joy of Movement, where she digs into all of the reasons why we're designed to move together and all the benefits that you see when you do that. And so I've been applying this. I've really gone out of my way. Like most people aren't really used to. I mean, some are, but I think a lot of like the high performance culture is very selfish, and which I don't like. And I think more people should exercise among others. I mean, you wouldn't believe what happens. We know for a fact that you have higher endorphins like oxytocin, and that helps you have like that does a few things. Number one, it increases trustworthiness. It also makes you a little more present. So if you have that trustworthiness, you're going to end up building better relationships when you suffer with other people. That's the best way to build relationships, in my opinion. So that's suffering with other people, the oxytocin, right? And then on top of that, you are positively reinforcing something difficult. And so it gives you a reason to keep showing up. Oxytocin is also very cardioprotective. So if you go too hard, yeah, there's going to be people there that literally have your back if you go too hard, but simultaneously you get to protect the heart in case you actually go too hard. So oxytocin is incredible for that. You also get the chance to learn so much about yourself and others. I mean, when you're in this group environment, it's wonderful. Sprinting with other people is like one of my go-to stacks right now. I've been doing that on a weekly basis. Let's see what else. When you and I first set up this podcast, I had mentioned freedive spearfishing, which I have honestly retired from because I don't want to get too morbid here. I've lost a lot of friends to the sport. I've lost now like 7 people that I care about to freedive spearfishing. It's a beautiful sport, but it's extremely dangerous and unforgiving. I've been hospitalized. I almost died. My dad got lost at sea once. Just to put into perspective, I was pretty extreme with the freedive spearfishing in that I am a very healthy guy and I like to push my limits. I like to apply what I know for my personal high performance endeavors. And I was getting to the point where I was freediving on a regular basis, 50 to 100 feet to kill fish, on one breath. And, you have to deal with sharks, you have to deal with currents, you have to deal with boaters. You're diving into caves with flashlights. Sometimes your entire body goes into these caves to retrieve fish. You have to literally fight sharks and Goliath groupers sometimes to get your fish back. I mean, it's an extremely dangerous sport. And the reason I mention this, even though I've retired, is because I think anyone and everyone should pursue some kind of hobby that helps them tap into that primal nature, where you have no option but to be fully present in order to survive. Now, I don't want to suggest that folks should risk their lives on a regular basis, but what I am here to say is that there is something primal about having something on the line. And I think every person should tune into that because it will help you get to know yourself and other people in ways that playing it safe could never do. And so one way that I've replicated that, honestly, is through the sprinting. Like I go all out. I really truly go all out to the point that I feel like I'm going to die. And, and, um, and now I'm kind of looking for another way that I can do that. I think I might get into either gravel cycling. I used to do road cycling, which was too dangerous. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I can still get that feeling and that element of camaraderie and risk without actually being, taking too much risk. Because at this point, man, with the company that I have, people I have around me, there's people that literally depend on me to feed their families. I can't afford to put my life on the line. That's so selfish. I also have a loving family, girlfriend, friends. Like I just can't, you know, risk my life the way that I used to. But anyway, I think it's important for folks to have some element of that built into their lifestyle. And then as far as like supplements and such, um, there's a few things that I've been liking a lot actually. I've got this right here, for example. This is a beverage that I've been loving. It's called Life Cider X. I discovered these guys in the Austin Health Optimization Conference, or Health Optimization Summit, rather. And this is this is actually paraxanthine, which is a metabolite of caffeine. I realized through genetic testing that I don't really tolerate caffeine well, and it wasn't until I actually listened to the test and started to wean off of caffeine and then reintroducing it that I realized how it really messed me up, made me super anxious. So I have
Sure.
recently gotten off caffeine. Paraxanthine is different because it's a metabolite of caffeine, and so it still energizes you, but it has a shorter half-life. So caffeine has a half-life of 5 hours. If you consume caffeine within 10 hours of bedtime, that means that it's going to take away from your sleep quality and sleep efficiency. Paraxanthine has a half-life of about 3 to 4 hours. You can have it later into the day, get energized, and it's not going to mess up your sleep. It also works a little differently on our on certain receptors that influence vasoconstriction. So it doesn't vasoconstrict the brain as much, which is awesome. I love that. And it contains taurine, L-tyrosine, and alpha-GPC. So it has a nice way to upregulate dopamine. It increases dopamine, but it also has a soothing effect of the taurine. It doesn't make you anxious. There's some apple cider vinegar in here, a little bit of raw honey. So I love this stuff. This is not an ad, by the way. I just genuinely love this product. I drink it pretty regularly. And that helps me get into my
Oh yeah, what
flow.
was the brand called again?
It's called
What was
Life
the brand called?
Cider X. Life Cider
Life
X.
Cider
And my
X.
favorite,
Sounds great.
yeah, it's awesome. And my favorite flavor, what I'm drinking right now, is the grapefruit nectarine. I think it's honestly delicious. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'd say maybe once a week, if I really want to, I don't know, if I got bad sleep or if I just don't feel like I'm at my 100% I need to be, I'll take a small dose of nicotine, like a tiny, tiny, tiny dose. I like using this brand, Knick Knack Naturals.
Knick-Knack Naturals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look, I just so Knick Knack is like, imagine like a Zyn, but way cleaner. It's no
Sure.
BPAs. It's not in a plastic pouch. It's way cleaner, and I'll let it dissolve for like a few minutes, and then I'll take it out of my mouth. So I only end up having maybe like 1 or 2 milligrams of it. But nicotine in isolation, which is often not the case, but nicotine in isolation is an incredible nootropic. It can help increase the health and fitness of the brain. However, nicotine is extremely addicting. There is a huge potential for abuse. And most people that I see using nicotine, using caffeine, and other stimulants, I'd say probably at least 90% of those people that I know um, have terrible sleep. And if you don't have good sleep, then the cycle just repeats itself because you take so many stimulants that it keeps you up at night. You get bad sleep, and then you need more the next day. Plus, you're building a tolerance, and it creates this like terrible loop.
Right.
So I'm the kind of guy, like believe it or not, I'm a more laid back, more I'd say introverted person, believe it or not. And so for me personally, I thrive with stimulants here and there. I like them. I honestly really like stimulants. I work well with them. Some people need more, call it like downers. They don't work well with stimulants. It does, it gets them overstimulated. But for me, I
Sure.
found as someone that has I'm genetically predisposed to have low dopamine. I've suffered with ADD. I like stimulants, and that helps me get in my flow. And then aside from all that, from the sleep and the exercise and the sprinting and the free diving and spearfishing and all that good stuff and all the supplements, What helps me get into my flow, man? I've been taking one day to truly recover every week. I'm Jewish and I keep Shabbat. I don't think you have to be Jewish. It's if you're guest Christian, you can take the Sunday, right, to rest and recover. But I think that even the most high performing people should, or folks that are aspiring to be high performers, should have one built in day of recovery where they do nothing but absolutely recover both mentally and physically. I have been doing that now for almost 2 years, and it's had a dramatic influence on my quality of life. And it's something that not only helps me recover, but it's also something that helps me almost like reinforce the effort that I put in throughout the week. In a way, it's like positive reinforcement. So it reinforces the effort and helps me recover so I don't burn out. There's a great concept
Sure.
by a guy named Cal Newport that I think folks should check out. It's called slow productivity. So, we typically see productivity as like, how much can we get done? What's the most that we can get done every single day? And it's like, no, hold on. Instead of looking at productivity in that fashion, zoom out for a second and think to yourself, what kind of lifestyle do you have to live to have the greatest overall impact and success over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And all of a sudden, you get this room to breathe, and you realize how essential it is to, to go hard, but also to recover effectively. If you go
Yep.
as hard as possible every single day, you will burn out. And the burnout's going to slow you down in ways that you may not have expected, you know, previous. So,
Harder to get back on path, right?
yeah, I mean, and I couldn't tell you the extent of burnout that I've seen in some of the world's highest performing professionals. And, you think that they have it all figured out, but they're human beings just like me and you, and
Come on.
so, yeah, man. I believe when you and I first spoke, I mentioned Ketone. Whenever I'm doing like, very, very long, whenever I have long, long, long work days, or if I'm doing, let's say, a couple podcasts in a day, so several hours of looking at a screen, speaking into a microphone, I like to use Ketone. It's the world's best, strongest exogenous ketone esters. I like the KE4. It's the most hardcore and effective of their supplements. And you can use this for both physical but also cognitive endurance. It's also great for sleep efficiency, believe it or not. It helps shift
Okay.
RQ. You lower your respiratory quotient. You have more parasympathetic activity, so it can improve sleep efficiency. So that's a little trick. That's probably my favorite supplement to increase sleep efficiency, assuming that you're doing everything else right with sleep. And for the folks tuning in that want to support sleep efficiency and learn more about what I do, I have a great guide on sleep efficiency, a PDF that I'll make sure to send all of your viewers that are curious. It's a nice
Yeah,
little.
yeah, we can link that. And then you never touched on gear. What's kind of some of your favorite gear that you're loving? Whether it's
Oh my
shoes,
God, you said gear. I was
shorts.
like, he's talking about steroids. I don't take that stuff.
Oh,
Um, so my favorite gear, I love. So for shoes, the first thing that comes to mind is shoes. I like Vivobarefoot. You get a nice
Yep.
natural spread in the toes. They're flat shoes. They have helped me build my arch in my foot. I wear them every time I go and exercise. I love those shoes so much. For sprinting, I do wear traditional like running shoes. And for anyone listening, I think that that's really the only time that you should wear running shoes is when you're sprinting or long distance running. I think so many people make the mistake of like walking around and just like generally always having running shoes on, which constricts the toes and keeps your heel elevated, which completely
Yeah.
destroys your posture. Running shoes are designed to keep your momentum forward. And if you're walking that way, you're going to get all kinds of, you know, compensations happening in your anatomy and physiology that totally screw you up long term. So most of the time I have flat shoes on, either the Vivos or I wear Earth Runners, the sandals, when I'm around here and just walking around here in South Beach. And then so that's some of my favorite gear as far as shoes are concerned. For clothing, I've been loving like my daily wear is either there's a company called Wire, WYR. They make cotton
Yep.
shirts and cotton shorts, and that's like my go-to.
Okay.
When I want to dress up, I wear clothing from a brand called Wear Shepherds. It's all linen, custom fit. I know
Yeah.
folks that are tuning in probably like, what the hell is this guy talking about linens? This is like a performance podcast. I don't know. I feel great. I don't like to wear polyester. And
And why is that?
Well, because polyester is, estrogen. It's not good for your hormones. It can irritate the skin. It's got
Yeah,
just nasty stuff in it. I don't like it. I like natural fibers. Don't quote me on the
for sure,
xeno
man. Are
estrogen, but
you on
that's
the
what it is.
NADS?
I'm not.
Are you on the NADS
I
underwear?
haven't gotten on nads yet. I need to. The two types of underwear that I wear, however, are um, I have I forget what the brand is called, but it's 100% organic hemp. I forget
Okay.
the brand name. And then when I'm either driving or traveling in a plane, I wear underwear by a brand called No Choice. That is like EMF proof underwear that has silver fibers woven into it to protect from
Oh,
EMF.
cool.
What else? What other gear am I liking? I mean, I obviously wear a Whoop. Um, oh, I wear blue blocking glasses, so raw optics.
Raw optics, nice.
Yeah.
Which ones are okay? Yeah.
RA optics. I wear the yellow lenses when I'm staring. Right now, I have my computer set on anti-blare blocking setting and run the show. I don't really want to have glasses on, but I typically wear the yellow tinted lenses while I'm on my computer, and then the red tinted lenses at night for sleep to help accumulate melatonin. What other gear am I liking, man? I mean, I take a good amount of supplements, but it's all based on my genetics and blood work. I have a whole team of people that look at that and help me make decisions with it. Um,
What about any new apps? Any new apps you're using?
oh, for sure. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked that question. So, look, I do a lot of work on my phone every single day, right? I work from my phone. My phone is my office, and that is a gift and a curse. I've been using an app called Brick and the Brick device to stay off my phone, and it's fucking
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
And this has everything to
yeah,
do with health and high performance because if you realize how much time we're wasting on our phones every single day, and you multiply that out for the next few years, I mean, it ends up being years, if not decades of our life. Decades.
yeah,
It's terrible.
yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, the brick has really. I used to make fun of people with the brick, and then I started using it, and I realized how effective it really is because you associate, like when you take a physical product and you associate it with your habits. I mean, it just becomes so much more apparent. Like, to give you an example, right now my phone is bricked up, which means I can't go on Instagram, I can't go on any social apps, I can't go on any apps that I've determined waste my time. So, in order for me to use these apps, in order for me to access them, I have to get up, walk to my kitchen, tap the brick that's on my fridge, and then I have access to these apps. But here's the thing is think about how many times throughout the day we go on our phones and on these apps unconsciously, right? And we end up spending minutes, if not hours, wasting away. So when I get the impulse and I have, the brick blocking the impulse, and I realize I have to go and get up, I realize in that moment how silly it is for me to want to use the app to begin with. Like I'm like, oh, this is just an impulsive
Right.
habit. Like I'm not going to go and get up and walk to my kitchen to use Instagram. Like that's so silly. So it's really helped me overcome that yeah, that just like obsessive compulsive behavior. Um
Yeah, that's a great one.
yeah, and then I mean, as far as other apps, there aren't too many more apps that I'm using for health and for performance right now. However, I do have my phone set up in a way that supports my health and performance. So I'll show you. You can see that's my home screen. So
Yeah,
I've got
yeah.
my digital business card. I've got my notes app. I've got my Google Tasks. Then I've
Okay.
got my email for my master's program. I've got Monday, which is where
Chat.
my team and I keep in touch. I've got the Brick app. I've got ChatGPT, and then I've got my calendar. And then if I scroll to the side, it's not apps. It's I have to search. I have to manually search. I'm in the app library, so I only have one screen on my phone. I
Smart.
I
Super
I unlock it
smart.
and it's all the essentials. And if I want to go and use an app, I have to manually search for it or find it. I'm
Smart.
like getting distracted. And then like
Yeah.
at least 90% of all my app notifications are turned off. All my social media notifications have, they're always off no matter what. I never get distracted by someone liking or commenting or DMing. That's BS. Instant
Sure.
notifications are the end of productivity, in my opinion. Um, and then I've got my phone set up so that, every around the sunset, my phone naturally goes into the warmest blue light setting, and
Yep.
um, and then I've also got a triple click lock screen, it turns the screen red, and then I have another app called One Sec, where I have certain time blocks for when I can use certain apps in addition to having the brick. But it's also set up so like during Shabbat, Friday evening to Saturday evening, I can't use my email. I can't use uh,
Mm.
anything related to work. So yeah, a few different a few different settings there.
Yeah, some useful apps, man. Well, I'll link everything in like the show notes, but where can people find you? What's the easiest place?
Yeah, I'd say you can find me on Instagram at Andres Preschel, AndresPreschel. You can also find me on my website, which is myname.com. My LinkedIn is my name. And if you have any questions or you want that sleep guide, just email me at Andres, Andres, at Know Your Physio, KNOWYOUR, PHYSIO.org, not .com, .org, and I will send you the sleep guide.
Oh yeah, man. Well, I'm excited to eventually meet you in person sometime soon, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Likewise, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again.
Awesome. Cheers, fam.
Cheers.